Hello, everybody out there. We are getting into now the third week of the stay-at-home order and self-quarantine in order to help the country and the world get the COVID virus under control. I'm Elizabeth Statlander, marriage and family therapist and mental health counselor, coming to you every day live on Facebook during this nationwide shutdown in order to try to provide some mental health relief and a healthy outlet where we can talk about all the anxiety and the fears and the different things we're going through right now as a country, as a culture, as families. Things are continuing to unfortunately get a little bit worse as the numbers are rising and the amount of cases that are coming out in this country and mortality rates. And I really wanted today to do something really important, which was to try and dispel a lot of the rumors that are going on out there about how this can actually be contracted. From the beginning of when this started, probably 3 weeks, a month ago, it became so confusing to understand, how do we contract this virus that is, just sweeping the world, and how do we know that we can keep our family safe in the midst of all this, because this is definitely a scary time for everybody. I don't think ever in anybody's lifetime that's alive today has seen anything quite like this. And I think it's important to kind of dispel the rumors that are going around. And I found actually one of my brothers shared this really great video with me this morning of a pulmonologist in New York City who's on the front lines, who's been treating people specifically with the COVID virus for upwards of several weeks now. And he gave a very emotional talk to other doctors and nurses who were about to go on the front line so that he could explain to them what's going on and how they can feel safe dealing with all these patients. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Before we get into that and all of the mental health issues that you guys are dealing with, I wanted to just touch on some of the things we talked about yesterday, because I got an outpouring of questions. Yesterday we talked about the stimulus package and the benefits for unemployment and benefits for the self-employed and business owners, which are all very different. And I'm not going to get too much into that today because we're going to talk about that on Thursday. Because I got so many overwhelming questions about it, and I am not the financial expert, just trying to read and interpret the best information that I can and relay it to you. I did speak with a friend of mine who's an accountant, and he is taking a class tomorrow on the stimulus package. And then he and I are going to speak hopefully on Thursday so that I can then present that information to you. And the accountants that I've reached out to said they're so swamped right now because everybody is calling them, asking them the same questions. And even the accounting professionals don't know all the answers yet. So he's my one friend, he's taking this class tomorrow, and then we're going to talk afterwards, and I'm going to take to him all of the questions that you guys have sent me about this topic and hopefully be able to come back to you with some really good information. But I think, again, I don't want to get too into that topic yet today. Maybe if we have time at the end, we will get into that. But as probably a lot of you know, every show that I've been doing in the past 2 weeks, I have been trying to highlight a local business that needs help, because so many of our businesses are in just dire situation right now. As you all know, our economy is just shut down. There's no money flowing, and it's really devastating for so many people. And because we don't have an end date in sight, it's really hard to know how to prepare financially, how to prepare mentally for what's ahead. And this morning, when I woke up, I was scrolling through Facebook, and I came across something that was so kind of sweet. It almost made me cry this morning, and I want to share that instead of a local business because it's within the same vein. So Facebook has a section dedicated just to the coronavirus, to COVID-19, and on this section of Facebook, you can put on this section any offers that you have to share with people who may be in trouble right now. And it also allows you to list things that you may need. So for example, let's say you are under chemotherapy and you can't leave the house and you don't have anybody around you and you need groceries. There are agencies, and I would, say stick with the agencies, not individuals, because you don't know necessarily what you're getting into, that will bring you the groceries. So you can list for people in your neighborhood. You can list things that you're willing to do or to give other people on Facebook. And I didn't know that that was going on, and maybe a lot of you did. So I added the thing that I'm offering to the community right now, which if you didn't see it on my Facebook page, or you didn't hear yesterday, I am offering $25 counseling sessions to any frontline any person who's working on the front lines of the COVID virus. So nurses, doctors, techs, police officers, medics, firefighters, anyone who's on the front line and is really feeling anxiety and stress. I'm offering $25 sessions, and that's significantly less than what I normally charge. So that is my offer to all those working on the front line. And if the $25 is too much for you, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm still going to give you therapy. And the other offer I made is for anyone who's suffering from a chronic illness, undergoing chemotherapy treatment, or is struggling with any kind of autoimmune disease that's really, really just completely traumatized and stressed out, that I will give you free therapy. So if anyone knows of anyone who might be in that position that's in need of some counseling right now, some crisis debriefing, please send them my way. It would be my honor to help them. And I've listed that on the Facebook, the COVID-19 Facebook section. And when I was scrolling through there this morning and I saw all the beautiful offers that people were making, and then I saw all the things that people needed, it was really, it was just a wake-up call. Like every day this becomes more and more real. And when you see the things that people are asking for, masks, they're healthcare workers, they're asking for masks, they're asking for, things to keep the gloves, to keep them safe. It was just like heartbreaking to think that the people on the front lines don't all have what they need. And I think they don't have what they need because we never could have imagined something like this happening to our country, And we are the big bad United States, and sometimes we feel like we're invincible, and this is just really, I think, shocking for all of us what's going on. So instead of pitching a local business today, please take a look at the section on Facebook that's dedicated just to COVID-19 needs and offers. And when you scroll through it, it's just beautiful to see all the things that people are offering to do for other people, and then even more heart-wrenching to see what needs people have. There's a lot of people in need out there right now. So if any of you are looking to participate in some way and do something good for your community, check that out. And again, after this is over, I will definitely post all of this stuff so that you guys can find the section and see if there's anything that you could possibly offer people in your communities. So today I wanted to kind of open with number one, saying hi to a very special viewer today. Her name is Blake Statlander, and she is my beautiful, sweet niece, and I miss her, and I can't wait till I can see you in person because I haven't been able to see you in so long. And so Blakey, I love you and I miss you, and Shane, I miss you too, but I'm not sure if you're watching. So just wanted to give that special hello because I know my niece is watching today. So Blake, keep watching. So I wanted to talk about a video that my brother shared with me this morning, and it was about an hour-long video of which I will share after the show. I watched the whole thing, I took notes, I watched it a couple times because it's a pulmonologist who's on the front lines in New York City, and when he's giving a talk to other nurses and doctors about how this virus is really passed from what he's learned and observed and how he is treating patients. And at the end of his talk, he gave a Q&A. So all of the nurses and doctors got to ask some questions, and it's really interesting. So I don't know if it's really circulating on the internet yet or not, but I'm definitely gonna post it, and I'm gonna relay to you some of the information that I got from it. So if you don't have time to watch it, or you don't feel like watching it, or you're running around after your kids and you just can't, I'm gonna try to relay the information. Maybe you wanna take notes, but don't worry, because I'm definitely posting this afterwards. And please remember that any information that I am conveying to you, I am doing my very best to make sure that it is the best information that you can get. As far as accuracy, things are changing every day, so I'm thinking there's things I might have said wrong last week because just nobody knew, and so on and so forth. So the information that this pulmonologist is sharing was as of, I think, a few days ago, and of course, everything is subject to change because our world is changing so rapidly, and these hot spots are popping up in different sections of the country, and things are really going to heat up probably in this week and next week, as far as probably the worst of this situation, from what I understand. So there's been so many rumors about how the COVID virus actually is passed, and I've heard everything from it's airborne to, it could be on the fabric, that you have to wear masks in order to prevent, because it could be all over the air and all that. And according to this physician who is working in one of the better hospitals, from, again, what I understand, in New York, I'm going to talk to you about what he's saying. Okay, this is very interesting, and I do believe it's very accurate because it's coming from someone who's actually in this experience right now. So first of all, what he went over 100 times in this video was the main way that you can track this virus is with these babies, with your hands, okay? So that's why we're all hearing so much information about wash your hands, disinfect your hands, okay? So most of us may already know that, maybe we don't, but it's hand to face, because once the virus is on your hands, we touch our faces so many times throughout the day that the virus can then enter our body through our eyes, our nose, and our mouth, okay? So hands to face, okay? That's the way that it is contracted. And when you get it, if you, God forbid, if you get this, it can last, he said, he's seeing it last from 7 to 10 to 14 days. He said the first 7 days are the most difficult, and then people start to turn a corner. And it can last anywhere from 7 to 14 days. So of course, let's hope none of us get it. But hands are the most dangerous thing. But the question is, where are our hands picking this up? Well, according to this physician, he said that this bacteria, this virus, lives on surfaces, okay? It does not live on fabric per se. It's not transmittable through fabric. It's transmittable through surfaces because it can live there. And that's why it's so critical that all of us constantly are disinfecting surfaces in the house. So keeping your the doorknobs, the handles coming in and out of your house, just all of the surfaces, keep them clean. And he said, but don't be afraid necessarily when you go out that if you have to touch something that you're gonna get it. If you have to touch something public like an elevator button, try to use your elbow. But if you can't use your elbow and you have to use your hands, make sure you have Purell with you and you immediately desanitize. And he said that the virus is a WIMP. He said it's a wimpy virus insofar as when it's in its, I guess, bacterial form or when it's in its invisible form, it's very easy to kill. So Purell or immediately go wash your hands, and that will take care of it. So you don't have to worry about scrubbing your whole body and washing your hair and going too crazy. That, remember, it lives on the surfaces. That's where we pick it up with our hands, and then we touch our faces because it's just a natural part of what we do, and that's how we pass this virus to ourselves. The other way that the other rumor he kind of dispelled is that being in a room with somebody who has it isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is if they touch their hands or face and they're infected, and then they touch a surface, and then you touch that surface, and then you touch your hands or face, you can get it that way. Handshaking is a big no-no. He said that hands, again, are the most dangerous part of the process of contracting it. So keep those hands clean. I know that hand sanitizer is very hard to get a hold of these days. So if you know that you're going to be, let's say, going to a doctor's office, or of course we're only going out when we really have to, or I'm doing the handles of my car and all of that, and my steering wheel. I'm just trying to keep every surface as disinfected as possible. Now, when you're in a room with somebody, what can happen is if they have it and they cough and a little bit of that something comes out, a bodily substance comes out of their mouth and it hits a surface, and then you touch that surface and then you touch your face, you can contract it. So that's why the social distance is so important, to really stay, far away. He said 3 to 6 feet away from people to make sure that they can't cough and it would land on you or land on a surface that you might be touching. So if you think about it, he kept saying, if you follow the rules and you have good boundaries, then you really won't be you won't necessarily be in such a dangerous situation. But it's when you don't have good rules and you're not following boundaries that this can be, very difficult. So I just also want to I see the screens lighting up and a lot of people are talking, and I'm going to get to every single person's comments and questions, I promise. But I'm going to save that today for the latter part of the show so that what we're talking about doesn't get too interrupted, okay? But thank you so much, and keep sending your questions and your comments because I promise I'm going to get to all of them. Okay, so he also said that one of the biggest ways that this is being passed on is in families. So what he said is, and we probably should have already done this, but he was recommending to nurses and doctors in this video to pick your small group of people, and that's it. Don't go hanging around a bunch of people, and don't go out if you don't have to, because again, you might forget and you might touch something and you might touch your face. And I'm sorry to be repetitive, but when you repeat things over and over again, then we all remember, and I want everyone to be safe, and I want everyone to remember this. So hands to face is the big thing. He talked about, what else? Picking your group of people and having really good boundaries about that, and don't let people in and out of your house because you don't always know where everybody's been. So, you know, make sure the surfaces in your house are disinfected, and if it's just you and whoever your group is, just keep it there. And as hard as it is, this takes so much discipline, but just don't be interacting with a bunch of people. And again, this isn't really new information, but what's good about it that he said is that if you follow his rules and you listen to what he's saying, then you don't have to be so paranoid about moving around and about. That just take the precautions and have some self-discipline and stick to them. Now, I know a lot of people live in apartment buildings, and apartment buildings, you might have people, you don't know where everyone's been in your apartment building, so you might have to touch, you know, obviously you're gonna have to touch your main door handles, your elevator buttons, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure if you don't have Purell on you or some kind of hand sanitizer, immediately go in, wash your hands, and wash your hands some more. But if you're not going out anywhere and your home is safe, then you don't have to go crazy with washing the hands. It's just when you're out and you're not in a controlled environment. So pick your people, stick to that little group of people, and that's it, okay? And he said you do not have to worry about packages and boxes and things like that are coming into your house, and you don't have to worry about clothes. Don't have to worry about clothes. He said the only people who have to worry about clothes are people like him who are, you know, in the front line. And he said there's such a certain process to that he wasn't even getting into that because none of us have to worry about that. Let's talk about the masks. He was very clear about the masks. The mask should only be worn by the people who are infected, okay? For the rest of us, the only reason we need to wear a mask or something covering this part of our face is to keep us from the habit of touching our face and our hand, because our nose and our mouth are entry points for the virus. And if we have it on our hands, we don't want to touch that. So, because there's a shortage of masks, he said, you know, it doesn't matter what you wear in front of your mouth and nose. So you could just take my scarf and, you know, if you want to be fashionable and go like that, or you could use anything, but it's not really necessarily going to protect you from anything. It's just to get you in the habit of not touching your mouth and your nose and, you know, hopefully your eyes. So if you feel like just practicing around the house, why not? If you really want to wear it when you go out, there's no problem with that, but it's not necessarily going to protect you the way you think it's going to. But it should be worn by people who are infected. So he did talk about if someone's infected in the house, they don't have to leave the house, but they should have their own room, and that we should not be trying to take care of them as much as we want to and going in there and taking their temperature. We should just stay out of the room, have them quarantine in a particular room, and try to make sure they have their own bathroom, because obviously this is where the coughing and the sneezing and all that and all the touching goes on. So if someone's infected in your household, that's how you want to handle that. He did say that if you have any elderly people in your house that are particularly vulnerable, and someone is in the house is infected, then other living arrangements should definitely be made for that elderly person or for the person who has it, because that is, you know, definitely a danger. But outside of that, if you follow those rules, then, you know, everyone should be okay. I just want to check my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything. Saying your isolation group, so the group of people, the small little social group that I was talking about, like pick your people and that's it, that's called the isolation group. Who are you isolated with, okay? And keep it, you know, just as small as possible. Always try to distance yourself, no hugging and kissing, and definitely no shaking hands. Always know where your hands are going, and try to carry a little bit of Purell with you. So I got all of that. he said that with the exception of 1 or 2 cases, very few cases, it seems that children, generally speaking, are not contracting the virus, but he said they could be carriers of it. We don't know that yet. So you don't have to worry so much about, I think he said, under 14, being vulnerable to it. But he said that this virus in general does not know age, that he's treating people of all ages, and that some people just get hit so hard by this that even people, young, he has to put them on ventilators. But he said, if I put them on a ventilator, that means I have the intention of taking them off the ventilator. So those were his reports from the New York hospital. And I will post that video for all of you to watch and kind of take your own things out of it that you find important. And there's been so many rumors about this. I did believe, until I watched this video, that it could be contracted through the air. And he said, absolutely not, that you can't just walk around and catch it. It doesn't work like that. So that made me feel a lot better, and I hope it makes you feel a lot better too. And so just keep those things in mind, because that's very important. Right now, I'm sure a lot of you are seeing things kind of ramp up on the internet, on social media, about, I've seen a couple of friends of mine who are on the front lines. They are in New York, and man, my heart goes out to New York, what they're going through. I've seen a couple of friends of mine who are doctors in New York, and they're putting up just posts that are talking about how stressed they are, that the number of people that are coming in and the number of people that are dying from this is just so overwhelming for them, because they have to make decisions between who gets a ventilator and who gets oxygen and who gets taken off oxygen. And so I really want to impress upon everyone who's watching that if you have any friends who are working on the front lines in New York City or anywhere, I'm doing sessions from home on FaceTime or whatever you want to use, and let them know to contact me. I mean, they can have free therapy, and they need debriefing. And there's not enough, I say this every day, but there's not enough mental health counselors and psychologists and therapists being tapped into. And people need us right now. And everyone should be able to have access to mental health care. Whether you have insurance or not. I don't take insurance. I'd say in my profession it's probably 50-50. 50% of us do, 50% of us don't. But share with your friends, and let them know that there is help out there for them. And so that's very important. So let's turn to all of your mental health and things that are going on for all of you. Now, again, there's so many things that we could be anxious about right now that I don't know where to begin, okay? And there's changes in our lifestyle, right? So we're all stuck at home all the time, and we're quarantined, and we're anxious about protecting our children and our elderly, but really anybody can get this, guys, except for young children, although they could be carriers. So the anxiety and the news media and seeing, all the horrible sights we're seeing on the news all the time has to get to us after a while. And I talk about this every single day, and I want to hear about how you guys are handling all of this, because it is such a stressful time. And I wanted to try and offer also some ways of decompressing and dealing with this anxiety in a positive way, because we know that the unhealthy ways of dealing with anxiety are usually drugs and alcohol, irritability, taking it out on the people that we're closest to. A lot of us are just bored. We're being told constantly by our public health officials on TV not to go anywhere, to stay home. The rumors are flying about everything. There could be a nationwide shutdown. Oh my God, then what do we do? Is it transmittable to animals? Where did this begin? Where does this end? And something that the pulmonologist said in his video is that we know that this did begin in Wuhan, China. And according to him, so don't shoot me if you don't like to hear that, but what he said was that it did begin in a bat, that they've isolated somehow, that the original carrier was a bat. And in China and in Wuhan are known for their, I forget what they're, wet markets. They're markets that sell all kinds of, wildlife that, we in this country probably would not eat, but is part of the culture there. And that some of this wildlife, carries a lot of disease, and they do eat, I guess, bat over there. And that is believed where it began. But now it's just human to human. So a lot of people were asking about animals and can it pass from animals, and from what he's saying, it's not transmittable to animals, but it was initially from a diseased animal. So that's that. So I want to check and see if anyone has any questions or mental health things that they want to know right now. And if not, then that's okay. So dealing with anxiety, I gave a couple ways last week, a couple different ways of dealing with anxiety. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And obviously right now, one of the things that we're being kept from is human touch and hugs and, kisses and embracing each other, and the being able to be in person with the people that we love. And so we feel in some ways isolated and disconnected, and that really goes against the social part of human beings. We're social beings. We need the comfort of other people, and we need to be in contact with other people, and we can't do that right now. So obviously, I'm sure everyone's doing it, but using the FaceTime and internet and video communications and phone calls is, huge right now. In order for us to feel connected and like our lives are full with other people. I mean, it's just critical right now that we stay in touch with each other, and that we do hopefully have that little isolation group that we can rely on and lean on right now. So I highly recommend that as part of taking down some of the anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety about what we're seeing on the news, and that seems to amp us up. I know it does for me. As soon as I turn on the news, my heart rate goes up. I start, imagining the worst scenario possible, and they're showing you the worst scenario possible. And so when you see it, you just think, oh my God, I keep thinking, well, when is Pittsburgh going to get hit? And when is this there? And like, what's next? And we're so out of control right now of everything going on around us that it makes us feel very out of control and very anxious. And that's part of why I wanted to relay the information from the pulmonologist earlier, because at least we have some idea of what we can do to feel safe and in control, because the world is completely out of control, or out of our immediate control anyways right now. So I think it's really important that we sort of follow our boundaries that our public health officials are giving us, follow the rules, follow the things that I said earlier in our meeting. I'm going to post the video so everybody can watch it for themselves and take out of it what you would like to take out of it. But I think that how much news we're watching plays a big role in how anxious we're feeling. And I would bet $1 million that everybody who's watching right now, whenever you turn on the news, your anxiety goes up. and your mind goes like mine does, and you start imagining the worst case scenario. So as soon as we know that that's happening, as soon as we feel our heart rate go up, we should use that as a sign that our body is telling us, our self is telling us, we're uncomfortable, we feel like we're in danger, and you need to turn it off. Because being really anxious right now is not going to help a damn thing. All it's going to do is make it worse. And I'm not saying this is easy. I know that everybody is frightened in some way right now, but adding to your anxiety that you already have is not going to help. And I think we feel a need to watch the news media 24/7 or as much as possible because we want to be informed and we want to make sure that we don't miss anything that could be somehow connected to our safety or to our children's safety. So it's like addicting. It sucks us in and we have to watch and we have to hear everything that everybody's saying, and then we have to talk about everything that everybody's saying on the news. But I beg you, as soon as that heart rate goes up, you know you're going to start to have anxiety or a panic attack. Turn it off. Turn it off, because maybe it's just not the right moment or the right time for you to be watching things that are going to be constantly and continuously negative. Okay? So that would be the first piece of advice that I would recommend to everybody. Second piece of advice is don't forget to take care of yourself. And we all forget to take care of ourselves, especially when we're taking care of children. And I know many of us are at home with kids. We're having to be the teacher, we're having to be the therapist, we're having to be the chef, the house cleaner, all of these different roles that parents are playing right now, and then we forget about taking care of ourselves. So even though there may not be school for everybody right now, I still think that it's critical that we all come up with some sort of daily structure. And I know we talked about this last week when we had Lydia on talking about what she's doing with her kids. We talked about the importance of structure and structure to reduce anxiety, because if you're just winging it every day and you're waking up and you don't have a plan, because most of us aren't going to work, we don't have a plan and we're not getting dressed, then that can just feed anxiety and depression. It just feeds it. And we feel so out of sorts, because what I think we're all learning right now is how important structure is. It's important to get up at a certain time, and it's important to take a shower and get dressed and put a little makeup on even when you don't feel like it. And it's important to take care of our beauty needs, which we can't do. The salons are closed, we can't get our nails done, we can't do any of that stuff that makes a lot of us girls feel great about ourselves. We can't go to the gym. So guys and girls can't get, their routine at the gym in. So all of these things without a structure are creating a tremendous amount of angst and depression in this country. And so I think that maybe tonight all of you can sit down as a family, for those of you who don't have structure and don't have a plan, and come up with one and say, okay, even though we're not going anywhere tomorrow, let's make a plan for the day. Let's decide when we're gonna get up. Let's decide what we're gonna do. Maybe we're gonna cook something together, or we're going to take a walk together, or something like that. Something that gives you some feeling of purpose and some feeling of structure. It's very important. So far we're saying limit the amount of news you watch and listen to your body and listen to yourself. And when you feel the anxiety coming on, and usually it's the heart rate or the stomach, I know my stomach growls when I get nervous, turn it off. Turn it off. Put something on funny. Put something on to take your mind off of it. And I think that because of the angst and the depression in the air in the country, we almost feel guilty or bad if we're not worrying about it, or if we're not scared about it, and if we're not watching the news all the time to make sure we know everything that's going on. But it's okay to disconnect from it. It's okay. It's okay to only watch the news for 15 minutes a day to get the core of what you need, or maybe just go on the internet and read off the internet so you're not hearing the blasts of the alerts on the news and the drum rolls and the whole drama piece to it. Maybe take the drama out, and maybe that will reduce some of your anxiety. I've said it every day on the show so far, but make sure that you're working out and you're getting some light exercise. You can do yoga in the house. You can take a walk. You can take a jog. You can whatever. Just get out of the house and move. And let's take advantage of the little bit of freedom that we have right now and get some fresh air. A lot of people have asked me about meditation. And from what I have seen with people through all my years of counseling is that some people like meditation, and it's just not for some people. But if you want to give it a try, I think it's a really nice way to take care of yourself. For all the adults watching, I think it's a really good way to kind of disconnect. And even if you're not meditating, okay, and trying to get your mind blank and, go on to some other dimension in your mind, what if you just put on some really nice music that you like and just sit quietly on the couch and close your eyes for 15 minutes and just listen to music? One of the meditations that I do use in a lot of my trauma therapy is a safe place meditation. So what a safe place meditation is, and we can all try it right now, is everybody think about a place or a time where you feel the safest and you feel the most at peace. And for some people, it might be laying in your bed. For some people, it might be sitting at the beach. Some people, it might be somewhere you travel to. I know that my safe place is Positano, Italy. I lived there for a brief period of time, and there was this one little spot where I would go and I could see the mountains and the beach and the homes. It was so beautiful, and I would find this little niche where nobody was around and the sun was beaming on me, and I always remember that, even though it was 16 years ago, how good I felt there. And that's my safe place. Everybody has that place where they just feel carefree and worry-free. So I want everyone to picture that place in your mind right now. Picture that place and imagine that you're there. And when you're there and you're closing your eyes, remember that you are hearing the sounds that you would hear in that safe place, smelling the way it would smell. Like if you're at the beach, you can smell the ocean, the sound of the waves, the temperature, what you were feeling in the moment, all through your body. And that way you're kind of stimulating all of your senses along with your mind to really put yourself in that place, in that safe place, in that special place. And if you feel throughout the day that you're just overwhelmed and this is just becoming too much, you can always go to that safe place in your mind. Even though you can't go there physically, in your mind, you can go there. So I think that those are just a few things that you can try. There's also an app, calm.com, C-A-L-M. It's the Calm app. And the Calm app, I think it's largely free. You can download it onto your phone. And they have like all kinds of guided meditations. They have all kinds of nature sounds and things that you can use to help calm yourself down in the middle of the day and get some sleep. So I like that app, and I recommend it to a lot of my clients. If you guys saw it last Friday, I go over a very specific anti-anxiety tool called the ABCs. I'm not going to repeat it here, but you can go back on my page and you can find Friday's show and you can listen to that show. And I give very specific instructions on how to debrief yourself with a certain exercise called the ABCs. And all of these things, you have to remember to take care of yourself, to be kind to yourself, and you don't have to feel guilty if you give yourself 20 minutes or a half an hour or more of not worrying about it, okay? It doesn't mean you're a bad citizen, okay? Everyone needs to maintain their mental health, because if we don't maintain our mental health, we're gonna see some really bad statistics come to life. We're going to see suicide, depression, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, nervous breakdowns. It's not going to be pretty. So your mental health, people don't think about, unfortunately, how important your mental health is. But without a sane mind, you have nothing. So allow yourself to be taking care of your mind just like you do your body, okay? Now I'm going to go back and hit the screen and see what everyone has to say here. I see a lot of things going on. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Hello, Franco. Hi, Caitlin, Christina, Philip, Jamie, Bella, Lydia. Oh my gosh, there's so many people. Jennifer, Todd. Let me see, where are we going here? All right, so let's go to one of our viewers. I turn it on to watch the main update and shut it off. Okay, so she's talking about the news that, that is a good strategy, that sometimes if you just watch the basics and then turn it off, or even just go on the internet instead of the TV, because the TV news, and I'm not saying I don't watch it because I do, but it comes with so much drama. I just, and so much spin, and then the politics and all that crap, just adds to the angst of everything else. So I think that's a good idea. My anxiety seems to get worse at night when I'm lying in bed. Any suggestions to calm my mind before bed? That's a great point. I think that is the norm. I think that even in regular times when our country is not in crisis, when we lay in bed and we're by ourselves in our minds, even if we're laying next to somebody and it's quiet and nothing's going on, that is when the anxiety hits. And every client and human being that I've worked with or known in the past 15 years or 12 years, whatever it is I've been doing this, that is always when anxiety hits us the worst, is at night. And that's why so many people have trouble falling asleep. And that's why so many people are taking sleep aids to go to bed, because all of that anxiety just hits you. So what I would say to that is, if you're laying in bed and the anxiety is hitting you, I would say to immediately distract yourself. And the reason I say to immediately distract yourself rather than work through it or do something is because you have to get your sleep, because sleep is an integral part of your immune system and keeping yourselves healthy through all this. You have to go to sleep. You have to sleep. So if you're starting to have anxiety, I would immediately distract yourself by either A, this might sound crazy, but take a walk around the house and put the TV on and put something funny on. Go find the funniest movie that you love, your funniest TV show, and just watch it. And you can do it on the couch, you can do it in the bed, preferably, so you kind of can fall asleep there. But just immediately distract yourself. Call a friend. If you know that you have a friend who's up late, give them a call. That's always a great way of distracting yourself. Distract yourself. If you're too anxious and you can't fall asleep, do not force yourself to sleep right then. If you're feeling really anxious, get up and do things around the house, read a book, clean, do something until you tire yourself out, because part of the anxiety at night comes from not being able to fall asleep. So the insomnia becomes cyclical. So now I'm going to be anxious because I'm anxious about not falling asleep. So I'm not just anxious because I'm anxious, but I'm anxious because I can't fall asleep. So one of the first things my professors taught us in grad school was, if you have a client who's insomniac, tell them to stay awake as much as possible. Because the more you try to go to sleep, the more anxious you're going to get about not being able to sleep. So thank you very much for that comment. Insomnia is now an issue for me. Okay, I think I just addressed that. I also think that one of the things I used to do when I had really bad insomnia, and we all go through phases of that, is yoga and stretching. So if you don't like yoga or you've never done it before, I would go to YouTube and put in like relaxing yoga for beginners, because most relaxing yoga is not, it's not very hard. It's just a lot of stretching and holding poses. And what yoga is going to do is it's going to calm you down because you are releasing all that lactic acid in your muscles, and you're relaxing, you're slowing down your breathing, and it's a really, really wonderful exercise for insomniacs. So if you want to decompress before bed, I highly recommend, don't be afraid of yoga if you've never done it. Just type in like yoga for beginners on YouTube, and you know, I want to hear if you try that, if it helps. I'm finding anxiety rubs off. I'll be fine. And then I call my sister, and by the time I hang up, I'm out of sorts. Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. So there's a theory in family therapy called natural family systems theory. And natural family systems theory says that when human beings are under intense anxiety, we tend to stick together and all run towards each other. And then once we do that, in that group of people that we run to when we want to talk to people, we have people who are anxiety heighteners, and we have people who are anxiety dampeners. And we all know who those people are in our lives. So if you have a family member that you talk to regularly, and I have many of them, and you have a family member that you know is, you know, very excitable and very anxious about things, then I think it's okay to say to them, hey sis, I want to talk to you. I want to be there for you, but you need, you know, your anxiety is making me anxious, and I would like us to just stop for a minute and take a deep breath and then go back to the conversation. But I think you need to punctuate it, because a lot of people who are so anxious don't know it. Now, you have to be careful with your audience, because some people may take that, you know, really offensively. But if that's too direct for you, then I would limit the time of day that you talk to them and the amount of time that you spend with them, because they're definitely not the people you want to talk to before bed, because they'll get you all worked up. So I would say with anxious friends and family, you know, if you can't be direct with them and let them know they're making you anxious, which is very difficult for a lot of people, then limit the time. Sometimes when I know I'm going to be talking to someone who's really anxious, I look at the clock and I say, okay, it's 3:50. I'm going to talk to them till 4:05, and that's it, or whatever it is. So you can, it's okay to have those boundaries right now. Okay. That's another thing. It's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay not to immerse yourself in this, and it's okay to set boundaries even in a time like this. So these are great, great points. Cleaning and organizing actually helps calm me down. Yes, it definitely does. Hello, Shahid. Hello, Renee, and hello, Rob. So I think that, you know, I'm trying to, it's hard when I'm talking to people in this format, in a large group format, to really specifically address each of your problems. So, you know, I can't encourage you enough to, if not me, to reach out to whoever your therapist might be, or of course, I hope it's me, but if it's not, that's okay. And talk to them about these things. And remember that even us therapists, and I can only speak for myself, but even for me, who's a trained professional, you know, I get anxious too sometimes, and it's okay. It's part of the process of what's going on now. But I think that what I do, and I do this largely because I have to for my profession, is I have to try not to get sucked into the worst case scenario, because anxiety, which we're all feeling right now, every single one of us, is having trouble sleeping. Every single one of us is getting super anxious before we go to bed. Every single one of us is feeling cooped up and somewhat hopeless or anxious about what's to come in the future, because we know that things are going to probably get a little bit worse before they get better. Not to be negative, but I think that's the reality that we have to sort of prepare ourselves for. And we can choose, we have choices, and we can choose to live in the fantasy of the worst case scenario. And it is a fantasy, because usually the worst case scenario never happens. Never happens. Some rare occasions it does, but most of the time our worst case scenarios never ever happen. But we can choose to think about the best case scenario, or we can choose to live in the moment rather than in the future or the past. Some of the main problems, the main catalysts of depression are people living in the past. They can't get over or get out of what happened to them, and they're living there rather than living in the moment. Or anxiety, on the converse, tends to come from living too much in the future. What if this happens? But when this happens, what will I do? And it's the constant one way or the other, right? We're usually going to the worst case scenarios that could happen, or maybe a worst case scenario that you once heard happened. But it's really important that we try to, in a crisis, which we are all in right now, live day by day, and God, if we have to, hour to hour, it's okay. It's okay right now to do that. I used to read a lot of Wayne Dyer books, and Wayne Dyer has, recently passed away. And those of you who don't know who he is, I highly recommend his books. They're fantastic. But he was a therapist who then became author and speaker, and then did a lot of videos, a lot of speaking, and he was really wonderful. And I was sort of a Wayne Dyer junkie in my early 30s. I think I read every single one of his books. And in one of his books, he has this little picture of this little animal of some kind, this little, kind of like a little squirrel-looking thing on a tree branch. And underneath him is a big crocodile with his mouth open, and he's hungry, and he's snapping his jaws. And above him is this huge vulture swooping down right at him. So here's this poor little squirrel. He's on this branch, this tree branch, and danger underneath and danger from above. And in the picture, they show you this, and then he takes a berry off of the tree and he eats it. And he says, "Oh, isn't life sweet?" And I thought that was such a wonderful way to kind of display or describe what living in the moment is, as hard as that is for most of us. This little squirrel had a crocodile getting ready to eat him if he fell, and the branch is breaking, so he's either going to fall into this crocodile's mouth and die, or he's going to be swooped and eaten by this vulture. And he knows it, but he takes a little berry as he's, breaking off the branch, and he eats it, and he says, "Oh, isn't this life sweet?" So I think that we can learn a lot from that, and I think we kind of have to take that into consideration and take that as something to live by in these times. And, there are good things happening out there. I'm going to wrap things up because I have to go do another client session right now, and it's thankfully been a very busy day for me, and I thank God for that, because I know it's really hard for people to get away from their families and make their therapy appointments. So I really appreciate all of my clients, and I appreciate so much all of you watching and for making this this daily segment work. And because if it wasn't for all of you, this wouldn't work. And I'm so happy that it's working, and I hope that it can be helpful to all of you. I hope that all of you know that I am a resource available to you, and to try to live in the moment. And I will see all of you back here tomorrow for another discussion. Everyone who's watching, I promise, because I had so many questions from yesterday's show. I promise to get you all the information on the STEM package for self-employed and business owners, straight from someone who's taking a class on it tomorrow. So I'll probably be talking about it Thursday. But I promise to keep researching and bringing you all the best information that I can. And I wish you all a safe evening until tomorrow, and look out for that post from the pulmonologist from New York. He's fantastic and really breaks things down, or you can rewatch this if you missed that part. And I love you all. Be safe, and until tomorrow, thank you for watching.